The story of the Chumash Indians is one of great resilience. Hundreds of years ago, Chumash tribes utilized resources from both land and sea along a 200-mile stretch of California coastline. The establishment of Spanish missions in the late 1700s began a tumultuous period where the Chumash population dropped from 22,000 to 2,800. Decades of struggle followed. But the survivors never relented. 7 years after opening its first gaming facility, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians started construction on a state-of-the-art casino and resort designed to elegantly blend with the surrounding Santa Ynez Valley land their ancestors once occupied. The success of the Chumash Casino Resort has put tribal members on the path to economic self-sufficiency for current and future generations. Today, you'll hear stories from a 9,000-year history, rich with culture, with giving, and with pride. Stories of great achievement, of past and present adversity, of the fight to revive a culture pushed to the brink of extinction. Stories of Chumash life. In this edition of Chumash Life, the tribe recently launched an emotional, powerful, and bold image campaign that gets the tribe's message across in a compelling way. An article that contains an obscure, anti-Indian thesis can negatively influence public policy, even though the premise of the article is based on faulty logic. Earlier this year, the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation established Team Chumash, a group of volunteers who participate in community events. But first, Tribal Chairman Vincent Armenta goes to Washington to testify before a House Subcommittee.
On June 17, 2015, Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Tribal Chairman Vincent Armenta testified before the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee on Indian, Insular, and Alaska Native Affairs. Chairman Armenta testified specifically about H.R. 1157, the bipartisan bill introduced by Congressman Doug LaMalfa that would authorize the Secretary of the Interior to take the tribe's Camp 4 land into trust.
I thought the legislative hearing in June gave us an opportunity to again tell the subcommittee of some of the struggles we have as a tribe, having such a minimal amount of land, and how important tribal housing is to us, and the importance of bringing Camp 4 into trust for that purpose.
At the hearing, Chairman Armenta also discussed the difficulties the tribe faces in trying to work on a government-to-government basis with the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors.
Shortly after purchasing Camp 4, we submitted a draft cooperative agreement to Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors, hoping to negotiate a payment in lieu of taxes in that agreement. For more than 2 years, the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors ignored our offer. On August 20th, 2013, the board voted 3-2 not to enter into a government-to-government dialogue with our tribe. The official position of the board to this day is that tribes are not governments and therefore county need not negotiate with them.
Santa Barbara County 5th District Supervisor Steve Lavanino also testified at the hearing and confirmed the rocky relationship between the tribe and the county.
Some would consider Santa Barbara County a progressive region, and it's a leader when it comes to protecting most human rights, but for some reason those same protections are not always afforded to the tribe. During our public hearings, seemingly educated people still regularly question the heritage of the tribal members and the validity of the tribe's sovereign status. While you may expect such comments sometimes from the public, most alarming are shocking statements from current and former elected officials. The county supervisor who formerly represented the area in which both Camp 4 and the tribe's current reservation lie said, quote, "These are not real sophisticated people," unquote. One of our current board members, whose district is home to more than 800 people employed by the tribe, recently questioned whether or not the reservation system as a whole should be abolished. This is the environment in which the tribe is asked to live and work.
Subcommittee Chairman Don Young thanked Supervisor Lavanino for testifying and said of the county's treatment of the tribe,
"This issue has been around for a long time. If I thought for a moment there was true negotiation government to government, I wouldn't have this hearing. But I don't see that effort. I see a total lack of consideration. So we're going to try to move this piece of legislation."
Santa Barbara County CEO Mona Miyasato testified in opposition of H.R. 1157 and received comments and questions from subcommittee members.
And one of the things that I want to make very clear is that they are a government. They are a sovereign nation. And for any institution in the United States not to recognize that is backwards.
I guess what I've continued to not understand over the years, and I think the committee members of this committee are failing to understand, is if the housing development is less dense than the one next to it, if the ag use is currently being used for ag use, and they're willing to offer more than 10 times what you get in property values today for that tax revenue, what is it you're looking for, other than just holding this issue up?
Congressman Doug LaMalfa, who introduced H.R. 1157 to Congress, also responded to Miyasato's testimony.
You kind of mentioned earlier that the legislation or the effort by the tribe would be a shortcut to getting to their end goal of providing housing. They've already owned the land for about 5 years, but even more so, you point back to the taking into trust recently 6 acres adjacent to the trust land they have, which was a 14-year lawsuit-filled process. How can you really think that at this point this looks like a shortcut?
I thought it was good that representatives from Santa Barbara County were at that hearing. I believe it's important that they hear from the subcommittee that the tribe is a government, and they see how the federal government works with the tribe on a government-to-government basis. I think that's very important for the county to understand that and start respecting that as well. We are confident that our Camp 4 land will go into trust.
The tribe's quest to get its ancestral land placed into federal trust continues. The tribe's recently launched advertising campaign reflects a true image.
The Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians recently launched a 3-part tribal image campaign to counter the misinformation about the tribe that exists in the community.
We believe that the campaign is an educational tool. It'll help get the community to understand who we are and what we're faced with, and really what we're doing within the community. We think by making them aware of that, that'll actually give us stronger ties with the community and open up a positive dialogue with them as well.
Some of the hurtful words uttered against the tribe over the years are used in the first part of the campaign entitled Truth, where tribal members refute factual inaccuracies.
I've worked since I was a teenager. At one time, I worked 2 jobs to support my family.
The ugliness of the hurtful words are contrasted by the beauty of tribal members stating simple facts that rise above the hate and move forward in a positive and productive way.
People need to start figuring out that it ain't the poor Indians anymore. This is a disaster.
A recent economic impact study has shown that our tribe has a $300 million positive impact on this community. We are also the largest employer in the valley, and our tribe has donated more than $19 million to different groups, organizations, and schools. That does not sound like a disaster to me.
I think there's a lot of uninformed people out there in the community that need to know the truth, and we're here for this campaign to tell the truth, to work better with the community, to have a better relationship with the Board of County Supervisors.
We should revisit the whole reservation system. It's inadvisable to have sovereign inholdings in the middle of our nation.
More than 200 years of federal law and the Constitution have upheld the inherent rights of Native American tribes. To say tribal sovereignty is inadvisable is to dismiss tribes and say the framers of the Constitution got it wrong. Tribal sovereignty is not just a legal fact, it is a lifeblood of Native American nations.
The second part of the campaign, We Are the Valley, tells the story of the Santa Ynez Valley and how it has become the thriving community it is. From the earliest Chumash ancestors to the joint efforts of current residents and tribal members, it's a story about unity and how together we are the valley.
The valley was born. Over time, the land was touched by the Chumash, Spaniards, Mexicans, and Danes, giving the Santa Ynez Valley its heart and soul. Now we are the backbone of the valley, carrying on the traditions of our cultures. Our children learn together. Our businesses thrive together. We give back together. The spirit of the valley lives on. Together, we are that spirit. We are that community. We are the valley.
I believe the results of the campaign will get people to understand who the tribe is, what we're faced with, and what we're doing moving forward.
The third part of the campaign, Foundation Partners, focuses on the community partners of the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation. The ads demonstrate the wonderful contributions these nonprofit organizations make in the community. The campaign also has a standalone website, friendsofchumash.com, to provide educational information on the tribe and its goal to build a stronger community.
We plan on doing some additional community outreach, speaking engagements, as well as educational dinners within the community.
The tribe is optimistic about the impact of its campaign. Chairman Armenta said he hopes community members will read the print ads in local newspapers, view the broadcast commercials on local television stations, and visit the campaign website to learn more about the tribe.
We're hoping they're going to learn about our projects, learn about what we're faced with and the struggles that we have, and they're really going to learn how great of a community partner the tribe can be through open dialogue.
Educating the public about the tribe will be a win-win situation for the entire community. The result of a poorly researched article can have far-reaching negative impacts on Indian country.
A few years ago, Pepperdine Law Review published a student paper titled Extreme Rubber Stamping: The Fee-to-Trust Process of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. Journalist and professor Mark Trahant, an expert in the field of land-into-trust issues, recently published an article that exposes the many fallacies of the Pepperdine Article.
The article made the case that there's a 100% approval rate for land-into-trust applications from the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Department of Interior. What it misses is that along the way, the government sends it back to tribes and says, can you do it over? And it's not a no, but it's can you do it over? There's an open process that allows that to occur that just slows these things down. And even it's more than appeals, because once you go through the appeals process, you can still go to court. Right now, there's legislation in the Senate that would actually speed up land into trust for that very reason, that there's just too many avenues for opponents to block it.
A good case in point is the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians federal trust application submitted in November 2000 for 6.9 acres adjacent to the reservation. It should have been a straightforward approval. The purpose of placing the land into trust was to build a Chumash museum and cultural center. But after the BIA first approved the tribe's application, it was followed by a 9-year process of remands, dismissals, and appeals from local anti-tribal groups hoping to block the BIA's decision. After nearly 14 years, the tribe's 6.9 acres was finally placed into federal trust. This hardly represents extreme rubber stamping. Unfortunately, the poorly researched article is being used by anti-tribal groups to prove a point that is based on questionable methodology and a faulty premise or two.
First, there's this idea that a lot of critics would like to convey that tribes are big bad players, that they're thwarting the rules of ordinary government, and they're making it difficult for those poor folks that run counties or cities. And this article is part of that narrative strain. The second thing this article did was to go into a very narrow problem for Indian country and flip it around and make it as if tribes have their way with the federal government in terms of getting land into trust. And the premise is about as faulty as it can be, both legally and in just terms of common sense.
The Pepperdine article is an example of how an obscure anti-tribal thesis influences public policy, even as the premise reflects a serious attack on tribal governments using errors of omission and faulty logic.
What often happens in the terms of how these articles influence public policy is that they take a bizarre legal theory, publish it in some journal of some kind, and then take it back to Congress and try to get Congress to act on it.
On May 14, 2015, the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee on Indian, Insular, and Alaska Native Affairs held a hearing on land into trust, and the Republican majority staff memo alluded to the Pepperdine Law Review's conclusion. To the committee's knowledge, Interior has not declined any application to acquire trust land on the grounds that the tribal applicant was not under federal jurisdiction in 1934. So the idea of a 100% BIA approval of land into trust applications is now the story told by critics, even if it's not true.
Many lawyers have looked at it. Legally, it doesn't mean anything. No court would hold it up, and no court would actually cite it into law as evidence. What it is a political statement, and it's a political statement trying to put pressure on tribes, and it's just not going to work.
Hopefully, we can all continue to set the record straight and try to repair the damage this article has done. In a recurring segment featuring the Santa Ynez Chumash Indians Foundation, we take a look at the foundation's recently established volunteer group.
Members of the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians have always spent a significant amount of time volunteering in the Santa Ynez Valley community, whether it was tribal members staging fundraisers or helping at a local food bank. The tribal presence has been felt in the community for decades. Today, that spirit of volunteerism lives on with Team Chumash, a group of volunteers organized through the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation.
Team Chumash was created because our commitment to community organizations goes beyond just funding. A lot of times, nonprofit organizations need additional resources, including volunteers.
Since the launch of Team Chumash earlier this year, the foundation has recruited more than 150 volunteers, and that number continues to grow each week. Comprised of tribal members, descendants, management, employees, and their families, Team Chumash is all about community members helping community members.
It's really great that we've got such long-standing team members. Now that they have the opportunity to give back and to represent the organization, it's a source of pride.
So far this year, Team Chumash has participated in a number of events, including UCSB men's and women's basketball games, Special Olympics polar plunge, and Junior Blind Olympics.
Without the volunteers here at Junior Blind Olympics, we would not have an event. We have over 400 volunteers, including Team Chumash, that are the coaches. They're the leaders. They're teaching the kids how to throw a shot put. They're teaching the kids how to run the dash. They're helping with archery. They're helping with goal ball. They're manning tables. They're helping the child that skins his knee. It just would not be possible because we could not do it on our own with our staff.
Team Chumash volunteers have been thrilled to participate in community events.
I actually joined Team Chumash to do more volunteering at events like this. You volunteer for things to better yourself, I think. And working at Chumash, they do more things at any other casino that I've worked for. I've been in gaming for 27 years, and I've never seen a casino give back more to a community than Chumash does. This is my third year volunteering at Junior Blind, and these kids teach you more than you teach them. Helping them adds to your life a little more.
I joined Team Chumash as an opportunity to give back to my community. I work for a wonderful organization, the Chumash, and they're always doing great things. It's just a way for me to be able to contribute. Volunteering is important to me because only what you do for others will last in this world. So that's the way to make your imprint felt, is just to give back.
The feedback we get from organizations after Team Chumash has volunteered at an event is always overwhelming. They are delighted that our volunteers are professional, enthusiastic, and they are appreciative of the difference that they make. Team Chumash volunteers, they're passionate. They're passionate about the job they do, both in the nonprofit arena as well as the job they do in-house.
The Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Foundation is organized on a basic principle: to build partnerships in the community and work collaboratively to make the community a better place to live and work. Through its foundation, the tribe has donated more than $19 million to hundreds of groups, organizations, and schools in the community and across the nation as part of the tribe's long-standing tradition of giving. Now, with Team Chumash, the tribe can provide additional volunteer support to more community nonprofit organizations.
I think it speaks to the values of the organization.
It's a great opportunity to build lasting friendships, but most importantly, you're doing something great for the community.
Team Chumash is just one of the many ways the Chumash give back to the community. Through its foundation, the tribe has contributed more than $19 million to date and volunteered hundreds of hours. Thank you for watching this fall 2015 edition of Chumash Life. See past segments at youtube.com/Chumash Life or Cox On Demand, Channel 1892 in Santa Barbara County.